Hi, Renee. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm just delighted to be here with you.
Thank you so much. You have such a good smile and such a beautiful background. I'm just like, it's calming just to see you in this environment, even though it's two-dimensional.
I was fortunate enough when we built our house that my husband made me this dance room. And so little did I know that I would be stuck here for, pretty much 2 years straight during a pandemic. But
Yeah,
wow, how lucky.
I know. Do you dance?
Yeah, I do. I do something called NIA, and
Nia. I've not
NIA.
heard. Yeah.
And it's a fusion of dance and martial arts and healing arts like yoga and Feldenkrais.
Mm.
And the first principle of NIA is the joy of movement. And I understand that you're a happiness guy. So I feel like, oh my gosh, we have something to talk about.
I don't know what being a happiness guy is, but I try to smile a lot. I'll say that. Um, Renee, joy of movement. That's just so beautiful. I'm starting to have a lot of questions about Nia. What's the origin of Nia?
Well, it started back in the early 80s when this is like before your time, dude, but there were people who were doing really high impact aerobics, like Jane Fonda style.
Mm-hmm.
And so Debbie Rosas and Carlos Rosas were two of those people, and they were teaching it at a really very successful studio in Marin, California. And at some point, they just looked at each other and went, wow, all this high impact stuff is just killing our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and probably our students too. And I think we should do something different. So they went to a martial arts dojo.
Yeah.
And they were asked to take off their shoes. Well, they never exercised without their shoes because they're doing all this high impact stuff. But that just started them on a whole evolutionary journey of their practice. And so they eventually included in 3 different martial arts, 3 dance arts, 3 healing arts. And they did it to just outstandingly beautiful and moving and fun and danceable type of music. And it originally was non-impact aerobics because they had come from an aerobics.
Oh, Nia. There you go.
NIA. But once they started in adding, jazz and modern dance and Aikido and Taekwondo and yoga and Feldenkrais and all these different things, it was like so much more.
Yeah.
It eventually just became NIA. And the first principle of it was the joy of movement. Movement to just feel great in your body and make you feel good as a person.
Wow. You answered my question. I was going to say, what does the joy of movement mean to you? And you said, just feel good moving your body. It's Emma, my girlfriend, she's a personal trainer, and she's trying to start this program that's called the sport of life. So it's all about whatever your sport in life is. That could be your 94-year-old grandparent and your sport is playing with your grandchildren, right? It could be you're trying to stay as like a top runner as you age, skiing, golfing, whatever. And she really tries to tie like the joy aspect together. That's really interesting to me because I find that if I'm doing something that I naturally enjoy, you could find joy in everything, but for me, that's basketball. Once upon a time, that was football. I like moving, like sometimes if I'm taking a run, I might be like, oh, like I'm tired, but I know this is good for me. Like when I was playing basketball, like you just run ragged, like you don't even realize what's happening. So I is it one of those movement practices that like as you learn it, it's not just the movement, it's kind of like the mindset as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right from the get-go. It definitely
Yeah.
is. And the way that this first principle of it works is that you choose joy, that you're always choosing joy in your movement. And it has to do with, finding that life force energy that gives you that little sparkle and pizzazz and, just lights you up.
You choose joy. For those of you who don't know, Renee is in Hawaii, which is why she has that beautiful flower behind her. And she has 2 companies. There's 3 companies, but 2 that I'm going to bring up. Still in Moving Center, which, think about the name. It's about having a still mind while having a moving body, right? So it's kind of bringing, that mindfulness to movement, which I chose those other words because her other company is called the Academy of Mindful Movement, where she's training instructors, teachers to teach their movement mindfully. So this is right up Renee's alley. She's not just a practitioner, or she's not just a practitioner doing it. She's also kind of a master at this. And Renee, I want to take a stab at what it means to choose joy. I'm going to tell you something that I think I've said on the podcast once or twice, so people may hear, but I say this a lot. I want to see if this resonates with you.
Okay.
So I have been taking ice cold showers for a few years now because I believe in the benefits of them. I don't have an ice bath. If I have a chance to ice bath or jump in a lake, that's like really cold, like something like this picture here. That's what I would choose, but cold showers nonetheless. Right now, I'm living in Alberta, Canada. Our water comes from a well. The water is 32.0001 degrees. I'm convinced. And when I go in the shower, at the exact same moment, Renee, these 2 things are true. Here's the first thing. My body's tense. My breathing's tense. I'm miserable. I'm cold. I don't want to be here. That's true.
Right.
At the same time, here's the other thing that's true. I haven't been so alert at any other point in the day. I feel the most amount of energy I felt all day. I feel like electricity inside me. I feel alive, right? So both those true at the same moment. Mm-hmm. And I try to choose the happier, the more positive approach. And the way that I do it, I used to try to do it all up in here, but I've realized it's with movement. If someone I hope no one has a camera on me while I shower, but they think I'm crazy, because sometimes when it's like really cold, I will I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, even if you're thinking about, this is fun, this is good for you, sometimes it's still hard. And I'll just, I used to just stand there and it would hit me in the chest or the back. But if you were having fun, if you were taking joy in it, that's not what you would do. You'd turn around, make sure it hits your whole body, you wouldn't not let it hit your face or something, or your hands. So I'm trying to just shower normal and enjoy it, maybe play music, dance. And I've seen what it does. I swear it's I feel it. It's training me to be an optimist, if you will. It's rewiring my brain to be an optimist. And I like to follow Wim Hof. So this is not, I've definitely been guided down this path, but I finally have experienced it. Does that relate to you when you say that you're choosing joy in Nia or any movement?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I really feel as if it is our human birthright to be choosing our paths. And there's this amazing quote by Martha Washington, wife of good old George Washington. And she talks about really our dispositions, whether we're going to be happy or we're not, have so much more to do with what we choose than with whatever our external circumstances are.
Yeah.
Right? It's all how we orient ourselves. So absolutely, if you're putting yourself in a situation that is perfectly miserable physically, it's not damaging you, but it's also not particularly pleasant in the moment, perhaps. and you choose what your attitude is. Oh my gosh, I feel like you're just strengthening your joy muscles.
All right, you heard it here from a master. Look how smiley she is.
But also, I do want to say this. In NIA, we don't use a small j joy. We use a capital J joy. So we use capital J joy. And when we use the word that way, joy becomes this huge overarching kind of concept. And to me, it's our whole human ability to feel, to experience the whole range of human emotion, and to go really far into, whichever emotional realm we need to go in that moment. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had that experience of not crying, and it's a situation that really demands us to be experiencing some sort of sorrow or grief, and it finally comes through. It's such, I don't know. There is an internal soul satisfaction with experiencing that deep emotion. And that, when we have that experience, that's a capital J joy. It's not happy, right? But it's such a full experience that it's one that I believe connects us, right? We're able to have that experience of grief or sorrow so deeply that whenever we're around somebody else who might be feeling that, we can have that inner relationship and understanding how they truly feel. That's another one of those really deep, meaningful experiences in life.
Yeah.
That also brings this joy of like compassion and love for our fellow beings. So, yeah. So when I think of joy, whoa, it's so much more than happy. And
So that I love that, because you're actually talking about something that would be from a visual standpoint would be closer to sad, right?
yeah.
Someone
On the outside.
Yeah, but you're talking about like this ultimate like vulnerability, almost just completely open inside out, and allows you to connect to the world, connect to others, which in turn is joy, right? I'll say that's something I definitely will take to heart, Renee, because um, naturally, I would say I am, like not highly emotional, masculine. Think of, I don't want to put myself in a box, but think of like, a dumb football player, right? And I've been working so hard, really, like the last 10 years. Actually, the last person I had on here, Mike Gazzo, I want to give a shout out to him if he's listening, because when I met him, I was 18, visiting my brother in college, and he was 20. He was a DJ, an MMA fighter, tattooed, drank a lot of Jaeger, did all that type of person, if you can see him.
Yeah.
And heavy weightlifter, getting bar fights. That, he is now made a transformation, not for good. Not saying that these things are inherently good or bad, but the transformation that he did made for him was good. He is now a breath worker. He now is a deep thinker and someone who does a lot of inner work. He's like a vegan. He's soft spoken. And the reason I'm talking about him in such, I hold him in this high light, is he told me recently that he's been doing a lot of deep work, and he goes, Sean, like I had a lot of masculine energy, not feminine energy, like not like male female, like masculine energy, like very good goal setting and doer. He was a good doer, not a good feeler, right? And he just gave me some examples about how he had to work on his feeling, right? he's like, Sean, like I could have set a goal and achieve it. I had no problem doing that. I didn't need anyone to kick me in the butt, light a fire under me. I needed support, feeling like these sensations. And, it was cool because I think he started out even further than me on this side. Now to see this transformation, the reason I say it's good for him, he's happier. I see him, he has no problem. They say like, sometimes if people can't stop talking, can't stop moving, can't stop doing something, they're not always happy. He just has a calm aura around him. And it's great. It's great to see. So after hearing you and Mike, who I both hold in this highlight, share this with me, I know that's something I'm looking forward to experience.
Yeah. It's interesting. Another thing I'd like to tell you about Nia that relates to this is we have several things that we say make up a good workout. We need to have 5 different sensations. So they're called the FAMSS. And so the first one is flexibility, and next one, agility. Then M is mobility, stability, and strength.
FAMSS.
The FAMSS. So flexibility is out along the bone. So we're going to think of that as like stretching. Mm-hmm. Okay. Agility is start, stop, look there,
Yeah. Quick twitch muscles.
Yeah. Adapting with agility. Mobility is continuous motion, one leading to the next, no stopping, continuous mobility. Stability is balance. Strength is muscle hugging bone. We need all of those 5 sensations in whatever workout we're doing to really have a very complete experience. That's in the physical.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. I'm trying to think. So, I take exercise seriously, sounds like a funny word to even say. It's important to me. And yeah. I've always said that what I try to do, and I'm looking at it differently. What I try to do, my number 1 priority is cardiovascular. My second is core strength. My third is like strength, like weightlifting, which is kind of the same thing. And I didn't add the 4th until I turned 25 a few years back, and that's stretching. Which I would say stretching was more flexibility, because I know what you mean with mobility. I'm not very mobile. I think I'm flexible, but I'm not very mobile. It's something else I've been trying to, like work on. Like I could, like if I leaned against the wall and stretched my calf, I could stretch it, really far. But if I put like weight back here and squatted, if I tried to get too low, my heels would want to come up, So that's where it's like I feel like the mobility is like the function of flexibility almost. And stability, that's a good one. Yeah. I think stability, I was talking to my dad about this. My dad's 62. And, he's like, Sean, sometimes like I'm like starting to lose my balance, and he does nothing for like, that type of stuff. And I told him, I'm like, dude, you got to work on stability and mobility, even like little things. I'm like, get like 2 towels and fold them up a bunch. So it's like maybe the size of a sheet of paper, and try to stand on it with one leg while it's like doing this. Just stand, watch TV like that. Like it's almost like bringing agility now, which I haven't even thought of really, get your body lean one way, and then you have to, like just react and stuff.
Challenge yourself to keep your balance.
And that's all in Nia, huh? What's a good way, if I or someone listening want to like check out Nia, what's a good way to start? YouTube or something?
Yeah. Well, the headquarters is nianow.com. nianow.com. And then there's something called Nia On Demand. And for a very low price per month, and I'm sure there's some sort of introductory offer that's nothing or very little, you can get a subscription, and then you can just take all these NIA classes you want. But I wanted to move on because we've been talking in regard to this this realm of the deep feelings and the emotional kind of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, those FAMSS, those 5 sensations that make up a good physical workout, I think also apply at the emotional level. So if I want to be a human being who has a really healthy emotional system,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to go through the same kind of things. I want emotional flexibility. I want to be able to take an emotion and stretch it out, see how far I can go, and also come back. So flexibility isn't, let go of the rubber band, right? So if I am feeling an internal kind of ticked off, right? I want to see, like, how ticked off am I without snapping, right? Like, really feel it. I am really ticked off right now. And then having really felt that, then let it go and move on. The agility is, if you watch a little kid, they're in total tears because they just scraped their knee, and then you pick them up and say, oh, here comes puppy. And then they're giggling, right? They've gone from tears to giggle in half a second. They have this emotional agility. They can just, move so easily from one emotional response to the next, according to what's happening. And we have a tendency as adults, I feel like, to get stuck in these different emotional ruts and not have that agility to go from one emotion to another. And each of those emotions is real in its place. It's not like we're faking it. It's just that something else came up, and we've just met somebody's new baby, and then you look over and someone has fallen, and your emotion needs to change to meet the situation at the moment. So that's the agility. So
This is beautiful.
Mobility is, as we go from one emotion to the other, it's a very smooth transition between each. It's not herky-jerky. It's like this emotion flows into that, into this other. And it just is a smooth, continuous flow without that break. The stability of our emotional nature is to always have the centeredness. So even though we've got these different emotions going on, we still have the sense of, this is who I am. I'm here, centered in the middle, and here comes these different flows of emotion, but I'm stable. And then, right. And then the strength of the emotion is, how much can I really feel it? Like, really feel it. I mean, like, I'm intensely sad, or I am intensely overjoyed, and I can sustain that and still be able to let that dissolve. So it's not like being namby-pamby about these feelings. It's like, I'm so present for them. I'm available for these feelings, emotions to come through, express themselves as they need to, and appropriately. I've got that centeredness, that stability, that I'm not afraid that some emotion is going to just carry me away. I'm going to lose Renee. No, I have a lot more confidence now in my ability to experience these emotions and stay me.
That is so beautiful. When you said it, I was like, I almost interrupted. I said, I need an example of each. Every one of those examples, like, I understood, right? I love the idea of flexibility. How far can I stretch this and bring it back without snapping, right? Agility. How important is agility in business? If you're trying to do a lot in your life, which, I'll say something that maybe it's contradictory. I think everyone should. I need to be able, right? It's almost 6 p.m. here. I've been working since 6:30 this morning. I need to be able to shut this laptop and just go into fun mode, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go take a jog and I need to not think about work, right? Mobility. How is that transition? Am I like a zombie in that transition, or can I just like flow into it? Stability is the one that I understand the most, I would say. The other, I think that's something that I feel strong around, emotionally sound.
Yeah.
And it's hard, it's almost hard for me to put into words, but having that, like, this is me type of thing. Like, I know who I am and what makes me tick. And strength is probably my weakest. Strength is my weakest because I think about that. I think often I might feel highs very high and strong and intense. I think sometimes I don't feel lows. It's actually something I was talking to someone about recently they run a company. They were on this podcast as well. It's called the Mind Change Method, and they help people cope and deal with trauma. Not like, all right, let's revel in it. Like, let's deal with it, right? Let's work with it. Again, I think that's what I was talking about before. That feminine, energy of feeling, something that's beautiful. FAMSS, everybody, workouts and emotional FAMSS. I love it. When you said FAMSS, I thought it was like slang for like family or something. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but then it's an acronym. I love it. I gotta ask, did you you've thought about that a lot before, obviously, right? I mean, that was like that just came out so beautifully.
Well, not the specific examples.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. And I'm wondering, I haven't really explored it from the standpoint of the mind. Like, what would the FAMSS of the mind be? What would be, mental flexibility, mental agility, mental mobility, stability, and strength. So I think that would be a fun thing to explore someday too.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to say, let's do it now on this call, but I have a question for you.
Okay.
So let's say you say, cool, that's what I want to do. I want to think about, I want to try to understand what FAMSS of the mind would be, right? Whatever that means. Maybe you take a note in your phone, you write it on a sticky note, right? You determine, I'm going to do it. What does it look like for you to think through something deeply? And I know that's a weird question, so I'll give you my example.
Mm-hmm.
If let me try to think of a real example. You're gonna love this one. So I for those that don't know, I got introduced to Renee from Tony Benici, who is the second guest on here, and I've started doing some work with Renee, and it has been one of the most enjoyable experiences of my life, helping her market the Academy of Mindful Movement, which we should talk about at some point because I want to promote it. Check out the website if you guys have a second, academyofmindfulmovement.com. But, Renee, one of the things I like to do, which I stole straight from Tony, is visualize 5 minutes per client, visualize their success. And you remember you sent me that email, you're like, I'm visualizing people doing this. So that's what I like to do. And I looked at that as like a meditation, right? But I just sat there. And for me, what I'd like to do was either walking or just sitting, meditating. I like to talk it out to myself and then just kind of like save it. That's like the way I would think about it, because I find if I talk and record or I write, I don't make these logical jumps. If I'm thinking, and then it becomes more real, right? Like I'm like, when I was talking, like I was seeing you with like this big class full of instructors, right? With Douglas there and people coming up to you after virtually, right? Asking, how to become, mentors and like this thing. So for me, it's walk or sit and and talk it out. Sometimes it's also just sit silently, maybe before the talk. Sometimes it's write, not, it's actually probably 50-50 write and talk. But you're a very spiritual person that these the clarity in the way you speak, Renee, and the confidence in your smile don't come they don't just, they come from inner work. And I'd love to just learn from you, like how you would go through that process. Like, if you had some time tonight to figure out the FAMSS of the mind, like what would that look like to you?
One of the things that I had to learn again, and I learned it mostly from Carlos Rosas, one of the two founders of NIA. And I didn't learn it until I was in my 50s, was how to play. And I don't know when I forgot how to play, but I really forgot how to play. And when we had our 3 kids, my husband could play all these imaginary games with them, and I could do science projects with them and cooking projects with them, and we could go on nature walks, and we could identify the different plants and animals. I could do all these project things with them. I could read them a story, or I could tell them a story I had memorized, but I couldn't create a story. That wasn't something I knew how to do. And somehow, being with Carlos Rosas, and we were doing something that is called floor play. And so we're kind of rolling and tumbling around on the floor, and it's very free form. And he had just fallen in love again. He had lost a lot of weight. He looked like a kid. He was like dive rolling through the air and just cavorting around, and it was just exhilarating. And so I physically learned how in my body to play again. And then I started having these kind of visceral memories, maybe call it, I don't know, like memories that I could almost like sense in my body as if I were doing it, of being on the playground, how much I loved the swing set. And I love reaching my arms along on the monkey bars, how much farther can I reach? And going around on that push merry-go-round, those metal ones. Oh, yeah. And if you're on the edge, like you can hold onto the bars and hang your head over, and you're going around and you get super dizzy, or you stand up and make your way to the center, and then it's so still. Yeah. Even though the merry-go-round's in motion. So I was having those kind of play like waking life experiences. And some kind of shift just happened in me. And like all of a sudden, like I could write stories, and I could start doing my own choreography, and I could create a place like Stone Living Center, a 6,000 square foot place I imagined, and then it became real. I mean, it manifested in real life, and people started coming to it and doing all these wonderful things in it. And so I feel like there's something about play that opens us to the universe a little bit more. Mm. And can I use another analogy for a sec?
Please.
I once had a chance to see a Van Gogh original in a museum.
Wow.
And in my memory, it didn't have glass in front of it. Maybe it did, but it didn't doesn't in my memory. anyway, in any case, whether it did or not, there was just so much energy pouring through that painting. And I'm going, what is this? The person who painted this painting isn't even alive anymore and hasn't been alive for 100 or more years. Like, what is this? And I got the sense that somehow he had, through his painting, like opened a little portal into the universe that allowed this flow of energy to come through to the rest of us. Yeah. And so when you ask, like, how would I approach something new? Hopefully that's how I would do it. I would, like, open up and just see what came pouring through. And so when I hear you talk about wanting to talk during that experience or write during that experience, and that then it's not so jumpy or jerky from one thing to another, I'm getting the sense of you getting that flow. Something's coming through, and by your talking, it allows it to keep flowing and flowing. Or your writing, it keeps flowing and floating.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great way to think about it. And, when you said play, it started getting me to think about, we don't quiet ourselves a lot. So again, everyone, Renee runs the Academy of Mindful Movement. And when I said, what's mindful movement? She goes, let me start with what's not mindful movement. Putting your AirPods in and blasting music while reading a Kindle and watching a television sports game on mute on the treadmill all at once, right? And you're just running, you're not paying attention to your form. That's not mindful movement. And, Renee, I usually try to exercise with no technology, take a run with no watch, no headphones, no whatever. Definitely lift weights. And I've noticed that, like, sometimes I come out of that and I've never thought of business once the whole time. Maybe it's one of those beautiful runs where you are aware and you're just taking the scenery. Or maybe it's one of those beautiful runs where you're thinking about something, but it's fun, Maybe it's, maybe you're not necessarily in the moment. It's what's for dinner, what you have good fun plans this weekend, but still light, nice stuff. Come back, business ideas go crazy because they're working in the background. But and that's that's why that's something beautiful, play, and I appreciate you sharing that. Big transition of topic. You're in Hawaii. What's like your favorite Hawaiian food? Because when I lived there for a little bit, I just couldn't stop eating the fresh fruit. Like, for me, like, apple bananas are definitely my favorite. If you don't know what an apple banana is, I'm sorry for you. I can't explain it, but it's like a banana half the size, but 10 times the flavor.
That's a very good description. Yeah, it makes all the other bananas taste like plastic.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe fresh mangoes when they're in season. Oh,
fresh mangoes. We did not have fresh mangoes. Are you close to the water in Honolulu? Or you're not in Honolulu, you're on Oahu though, right?
I'm on Oahu, which Honolulu is. Did I show you this? Yeah. I don't think you can see out. Anyway, no. I'm on Kaneohe Bay. And so, yes, I'm close to the water, and I feel more blessed than I can even possibly describe. I grew up in a little 3-bedroom tract home in Fresno, California, and ever living on the water in Hawaii never crossed my mind. Hey. However, my husband thinks big. My husband has always had a huge imagination. So, this was within his scope of imagination. And
oh, man.
So it happened. And yet, it's interesting too. we've also lived really, really simple lives and just lived in, little rooms about the size of a closet. That was fine too.
As long as you don't ever strike me as someone that needs what you have, which is important. It's okay to have what you have and accept and be grateful, but to need it becomes an issue. And you deserve it. You deserve the space to dance in your house. So you don't need to go to and being on the water. So I hope you feel like you deserve it, because you definitely do.
I think deserving is really only about, in this kind of context, only about how much we can share and give. So by my being in this space and being able to share it with many others, whether it's in person and having people here in the room dancing with me, for example, our kumuhula, our hula teachers, whole Japanese contingent of hula dancers who are visiting from different parts of Japan, coming and dancing in this room. Oh man, did that give me a lot of joy. Or being on Zoom as much as I had been. At first, when we started Zoom, I went into this small office space that I had that just had a white wall and 2 doors beside it. And I was Zooming from there, and it was kind of like, I didn't want to make people feel, oh, look, she's got that fancy room or whatever. I didn't want people to feel like that. And then I thought, let's take a different approach here. I mean, I would love it if, I was in a place that was really cold and snowy and I got to see this tropical flower arrangement. That would brighten up my day. Why don't I instead think of it as something that I can share? So if I'm sharing, then I quote unquote deserve it. If I'm not, I don't. I don't deserve it. I just feel like, are we using whatever we have to the best advantage of the whole?
Yeah.
And we should have it. Yeah.
If you're sharing, that's what I'm writing this down. Actually, I usually don't take notes, but I've enjoyed so many of the things you've said that I felt like I had to jot a couple down, even though that's the beauty. That really is, bottom line, one of the main reasons I started this podcast was the first was for the experience. Renee, you and I have had some nice conversations for 3 minutes at the end of a work call, or, for 4 minutes at the beginning of a work call. And, I've had some other guests and friends that, maybe for a 10-minute drive we chat with, but we all know that our environment does create, a lot of our focus and emotions and thoughts. And to be able to say, hey, Renee, like, we got this blocked out on the calendar, we're going to record it, so make sure you're, psychologically, make sure you're ready, right? We're going to record it, document it. So the first thing is really for the experience, right? Is it harnesses a better experience. Second thing is to document it, right? For others. And one of the things I was actually writing down is every podcast I send to 1 or 2 people. The reason I do that is I post them on social and whatever, and however many people want to get from it, what they can, that's awesome. And of course it'd be great to have a huge podcast that I could just do this, but really what I want to do is help impact people's lives. So there's 2 people.
Yes.
I hope they listen to it, and I hope they get to this point. One is going to be Tony, that I send this to, and the other is going to be Emma's girlfriend, Aunt Min, because Emma, my girlfriend's Aunt Min, who I also consider my aunt. I want to share this with her. A lot of the things you're talking about with Mia really, really, I think relate to her energy, and I think she'll find this, quite exciting. I'm looking at the clock, and I wish it was an hour earlier, Renee, because we could keep chatting. One thing that I will say is, give me in the next year or so, I'm gonna come back to Hawaii and visit, because we need to see each other in person. And I'm just, I'm looking forward to continuing our chats. But I want to thank you for, of course, your time, but really your energy on this call. You've on this podcast, I guess you've put a lot out there for me and for others. And I hope it makes you feel good inside, because
Oh man, yeah, I've
good.
had a blast. Yeah, Sean, you're just a wonderful person to bring, I think, a lot of people's best forward. And that's
Thank
really
you.
what I get from you is you see the light and you see the potential in others, and you dedicate yourself to helping to bring that forward.
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, I feel that it's a very sincere endeavor on your part. It's not faked. It's real that you see the best in others. And when you do, maybe it's like opening that little universe in our little portal in their universe for their energy to go through. Yeah. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Makes me think of one super quick story. There's a man that goes to the gym, the Club Kona, where Tony goes in downtown Kona, and he runs a little shop called Tibetan Happiness. And I walked into the sauna, and he was sitting there reading the Quran, and that wasn't his religion. That's not his book. He's reading it as a chance to open his mind. And he was reading it with such focus and calmness and peace, pouring sweat. And he pouring sweat when I walked in. I knew he's been in there a while. And I go in there for a while. And there's a hot sauna. So I'm like, all right, I kind of just want to stay in here until he leaves, because I just want to see how long he's in here. 30 minutes goes by, just calmly flipping pages. I'm like, he must have been here for an hour. So I end up talking to him. He was born, in Tibet, which is a very impoverished, slave-driven country where they have no rights. You're not allowed to speak out loud in public, in some areas, a lot of tough stuff. And he told me a story about 21 days of hiking through the night, hiding during the day, hiking around Mount Everest to get free. He got to India, and he lived with monks, and he told me his whole story, and I just was enamored. And at the end, I said, what's one thing that you'd get away from your journey, from living with monks, from, living this lifestyle? And he said, compassion and empathy. And I was like, give me an example. And he runs this store. He said he barely makes enough money to get by. He sleeps in the back of the store, but that's amazing for him. He's proud of himself, right? He said some crazy person, crazy is probably a mean word, somebody that had clearly issues, that was on drugs, came by and stole a bunch of stuff. And the cops came, they got a good footage of her. And they said, we think we know where to find her. Do you want to press charges? And he said he started screaming at the cops and said, press charges. This woman needs help. This woman didn't want to steal this from me. She needs help and support, right? And Emma was in the sauna with me, and we were step back. This guy who could barely get by got robbed. Most people would flip to anger. He flipped to compassion and empathy. And ever since then, I've tried to just hold that. I know I don't practice it as well, but I've tried to at least think about what's the best in everyone? What are their intentions? If someone's mean, they probably don't mean to be mean. Maybe they're frustrated, things like that. And it means so much that at least to one person, that it's shown through a little bit. Oh, but yeah. I got to pass the credit on to this guy. I've tried to call his shop. Actually, I wanted to get him on the podcast or just talk to him. It was such a cool story, but I hope that was a nice little way to wrap this up.
Oh, beautiful.
It was definitely powerful. I just envision it so much. It was wild. Renee, you. I know what?
That's you.
Well, hey, I know you have to go. Thank you so much for your time, Renee. And
mahalo. Mhm.
Mahalo.